campaigns for truth-telling, justice, and reconciliation, both here and across the country. So tonight we've got, no one has an apology. We're all here. Welcome. If you haven't been here for a while, just make sure your microphone has been turned on if you want to speak tonight. Some of them were not switched on, so it just takes a minute to boot up. We have one application for a leave of absence from Councillor Clark. If I can have between the 30th and the 20th of March inclusive. Can I ask for someone to move that and second? Moved by Councillor Sullivan, seconded by Councillor Van Dorsen. All those in favor of accepting? Yep, that's unanimous. Are there any other applications for leave of absence not here? Great. Okay, disclosures of interest. Do we have any disclosures of interest by members on items on tonight's agenda? No? Good. Responses to previous public questions taken unnoticed. There are none, but we'll get into some responses later on a separate item from the AGM. And now we're moving into public question time. So if there are people here that would like to speak, the general rule is that if you haven't been here before, I'll let you know you have about 3 minutes to say what you need to say. At that point in time, there'll be a bell or an alarm or some sort of noise. And if you haven't wrapped up your comments by then, we just ask that you get there as quickly as you can. So if we can start, I think we have Josephine Clark here to speak. Wonderful. Thank you, Josephine.
It's on. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Josephine Clark. I live in Fremantle North Ward, and I'm a volunteer for the Friends of Cantonment Hill. As you know, the City of Fremantle has over 70 parks and natural reserves, including beaches, rivers, public open space, and native bushland. Over 1,000 hectares. As we increase our city's density, these areas are crucial for canopy cover, maintaining biodiversity, and providing recreation for our residents. You also know that our natural spaces are managed by the city's Parks and Landscape team, which includes urban forests and natural areas. In January, all the Friends groups from within the City of Fremantle, Cantonment Hill, Boyambara Park, Sampson Park, Clontarf Hill and North Fremantle met to discuss our common concerns. We care for the natural bushland areas, including 2 Bush Forever sites. These areas record how the city once was and remind us of our unique flora and fauna. They provide beautiful natural spaces for our residents to enjoy. The biggest concern amongst the Friends groups was the lack of natural areas staffing. Currently, there is 1 staff person on the ground for all our areas. While there is another position available, the turnover is perpetual, usually due to better staff and conditions, pay and conditions offered elsewhere. We have no issue with our existing wonderful staff. They do an amazing job with limited resources over many different environments. But there is a heavy reliance on external contractors who do not have the specialist knowledge or the vested interest to care about our bushland and who often come in and do work that creates damage. And you don't know how disheartening that is. Our city benefits from the hours of volunteer work that go into conserving our sites. Last year, the Friends groups planted over 13,000 plants. We weed, we collect rubbish, we educate school children and community groups, we lobby, we apply for grants. We can only do this with support of natural areas staff. And our volunteer groups are ageing, and we're dealing with the effects of climate change. Our natural areas deserve better. Will the city increase in-house natural areas staff to properly manage and conserve the city's natural areas? What is the total cost of using contractors for natural areas management? Would employing additional permanent staff be more productive and cost-effective? We're calling on the city to increase in-house natural areas staffing to ensure proper oversight, management and conservation of these areas, which are essential to Fremantle's character and beauty. The Friends groups of Fremantle urgently need this support. Thank you.
Thank you, Josephine. And as someone who's also spent a lot of time in our natural remnant bushlands, the work that the Friends of Groups do is tremendous. And thank you guys for everything that you do and the rest of the Friends Groups around Fremantle. To your questions, I may turn that over to the CEO as the person who employs folks at the city. We don't employ people here as a council. So if you don't mind, Glenn.
Thank you, through the chair. The city's constantly looking at our resources and where we need to apply them. Budget's coming up. We are actually undertaking service reviews at the moment, which council will get to look at later on in the year. I probably do challenge whether wages and conditions are any better everywhere else, and that's why people are leaving. But I will say this, sometimes it is hard to find people who are looking for work in a local government. So we need to do better at promoting ourselves in that.
Were there any other people here to speak during public question time? No? Okay, then we'll move on into the agenda. Oh, that's for petition. Yeah. Yeah, can we do that during the petitions? Okay, moving into petitions now. Sorry. I understand that we have a petition from Lynn that Councillor Clark has, but if Lynn would like to speak to the petition. Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. My name's Lynn Fritchie. I live just over the hill on Amherst Street, near the corner of Amherst Street and High Street. And I'd like to talk about our petition for a pedestrian refuge on the corner of High Street and Amherst Street. Now, I'm a walker, so I'd like to take you, imagine you're on a walk with me, walking up Amherst Street North, and you get to High Street. You're standing on the corner there. On your right is the traffic coming from the roundabout. Some of it is still going at 70 kilometres an hour. It's really fast and dangerous there. On your left, constant stream of traffic coming up from Fremantle. And behind you, there's actually a turn. Amherst Street is a left turn only, but there's always cars who are illegally turning right. So on the corner, you're having to look at left, right, behind you, across the road all the time and cross 4 lanes of traffic. It's really dangerous and something bad is going to happen. So you might say, why don't I just walk up to the roundabout and go on the underpass? Well, I could do that, but it's 650 metres to the underpass. So that means a detour of 1.5 kilometre, which is quite a long way if you're trying to get to work. So I could go the other way. There's a pedestrian refuge at the corner, just 250 metres up. But you know, this is human nature. We've got 20 metres to cross this way or a 500 metre detour to go on. People are going to take chances. I take chances, even though I'm very risk averse. And so it's a really dangerous place. The solution we think is simple, a small pedestrian refuge on the corner in the intersection itself. I did put up a petition and everyone I talked to about it was just, yes, absolutely, this is a great idea. The businesses around the Fibonacci Centre are also very pro it. They think it'll increase their business. So I hope the council will take this seriously and consider the safety of pedestrians and cyclists by putting a pedestrian refuge there. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Lynn. Did Councillor Clark want to say anything about the petition?
I just want to thank you. I love it when people see a problem and bring a solution, and now we will bring it to staff at the city. Thank you, Lynn, for all your work chasing everybody up and around town. It is a very dangerous intersection. The roundabout, once it was installed, I think it made it worse there for everyone crossing the road. And at the moment, we've got all that redirected traffic because of the bridge works. So it's like playing Frogger with your life, trying to cross the 4 lanes and watch in 3 different directions at once. It's not easy. So thank you.
Great, thank you, Councillor Clark. And now I've got an admission to make. I messed up at the start of this meeting, everybody. I forgot to tell everyone that this is being recorded and streamed online. And while all care is being taken to maintain privacy, visitors in the public gallery and members of the public submitting a question, you might be captured in the recording. So I apologize for not mentioning that before public question time, but I hope we're all okay. There's seen no other petitions. Are there any deputations? Seeing none, no presentations, none. And on to the confirmation of minutes. Can someone move the confirmation of the minutes? Councillor Williamson Wong, and seconded by Councillor Slaughter. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Great. Now, elected member communication. Is there any elected member communication? Councillor Williamson Wong?
Thanks. It's a question for staff about a previous community engagement proposal, and I'm sorry that I didn't get it to you in an email earlier. I started my full-time job last week, I'm getting used to this whole thing. It's to do with the Friends of Hampton Road and Ord Street group, so we'll read it out, but then I'll email it to staff, perhaps to take on notice. Over the past few weeks, many of us have met with the Friends of Hampton Road and Ord Street group to discuss road safety improvements along Hampton Road, and there have been a few questions about the kind of history and previous projects and community engagement that have gone into the works there. Specifically in 2021 or 2022, there was a protected bike lane design from Knutsford to Ray Ave published on the MySay website. And so wondering if staff can provide a copy of the community engagement report or the submissions that were made at that point, because I'm not sure that community have been able to see them. And if there wasn't a community engagement report prepared, whether or not there are submissions that can be read or a document put together, and whether staff can clarify what the status and planned future of the projects are along Hampton Road, noting that they are in the long-term financial plan, and whether so there's a kind of confusion around the different documents that are on the MySay website. Can staff confirm that the Hampton Road Master Plan project is the same project that then became the Protected Bike Lanes on Hampton Road project? So just confirming whether those two documents are correct or whether one is missing. And then the last is to do with the safety assessment of Hampton Road and South Street, which the city is currently undertaking alongside an assessment of Hampton Road and Ray Avenue at a cost of $40,000. In 2018, the city commissioned a safety audit of the South Street Hampton Road intersection. So just wondering if staff can confirm whether action was taken from that assessment, whether that be in the form of an application for funding, and if it is envisaged that this assessment will then lead to further projects from there. And I'll email those through. Sorry that I didn't do that prior.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson Wong. I think we'll just take those on notice if you don't mind. There's quite a few there. We had a meeting in this chamber on Monday evening, and I just wonder if any of the councillors that attended the Walga Zone meeting wanted to provide a short maybe a report back as to what was discussed, if anything.
Yes, there were various things are discussed at the Walga. You've thrown me under the bus here. But nothing of note came out of the meeting, I don't think, that I can recall off the top of my head, except there was quite a bit of discussion about the all-in, all-out next election. In 2017, there is a strong feeling by the directorate that they will make a decision and there will be a spill of all councils next October, and then we'll just be doing 4 years by 4 years. And I don't know whether anyone else wants to add something, but that was mostly the most interesting thing to come out.
And I'll just foreshadow in future meetings, Walga would like to know what Fremantle as a council have to say about that and what we think as a whole. So we'll provide some more information to be added to an agenda at a later stage so that can be discussed fully.
That sounds like an interesting discussion. I look forward to that. Any other elected member communications? I just have a few things just because last week I was invited to have lunch with a U.S. Senator Tim Kaine from the United States. He was here specifically because he's a former mayor of Richmond, Virginia. He invited all the local mayors to come down and talk about how our communities feel about the AUKUS project. So I was happy to go and have lunch and talk to him about our current position as a city and then also where I felt our community was at. So that was a very interesting lunch. It was a really great conversation and very constructive as well. And earlier this week, the United Kingdom's second Sea Lord, I may have said that title wrong, was in Fremantle, in North Fremantle at Bibb and Tucker, and was invited by the UK consulate to have a chat with the United Kingdom's Navy captain for the sub that's visiting here. And I went and expressed our hospitality for all the crew that are currently staying in Fremantle. If they needed a hand as to knowing what might be going on in Fremantle or a hot tip on a place to have dinner, they could reach out to us anytime and we could provide them with different options as to what's going on. So if you do get a random call or a random pull up from somebody, it's probably because I made that offer. Another interesting thing that happened on behalf of the city was St. Pat's started their stage 1 construction of their new facility down on Beach Street. And so that was really a pleasure to see that actually getting going. That's something that this chamber approved not that long ago. And it's good to see that the works are starting. And then there's 2 other things. It's been a busy couple weeks. A former counselor from this chamber, Councillor Aidan Lang, had a book inducted into our library. So there will be copies of the book of Councillor Lang available if anyone is so desires to read about his time on the council. It's a pretty good sized book. There's quite a bit in there, and there's 2 copies just in case someone drops one in a bath. I'll leave it at that. And lastly, yesterday, or was it yesterday or earlier this week, I was able to represent the city on the Japanese icebreaker that's there in the port right now. They're resupplying before they go back down to Antarctica, and they'll take the supplies to a science facility that they have on land there in Antarctica. So it was really great. I was all on board with a whole bunch of students from Fremantle College in the Marine Studies program. So that was a bit of fun climbing around the ship. There were a lot of really great things that we learned about the vessel and all that stuff, but the most exciting thing is I let the cat out of the bag way too early because everyone here knows that's on the chamber. They gave us a gift, and the gift was a piece of frozen water. It's a piece of ice, and as a city, I accepted the gift. But the thing about this ice is it's 10,000 years old. And so it's some of the freshest water that could possibly be available. And after the meeting, if you're brave enough, I've got a little hammer and got the block of ice. More than happy, I'm gonna smash it up. And if you wanna have a bit of ice, I brought some liquids you can pour over the top of that, or you can have the ice, let it melt and just try the water. So put that on offer for everyone. But anyways, thank you so much. That's all that I have for the past couple weeks. Like I said, it was a busy couple weeks. So. All right, now we'll move on to reports and recommendations from officers. All right, planning reports. Seeing none, we'll move on to the agenda, the strategic and general reports. So we have the establishment of a planning framework committee. If I can ask someone to move that. Councillor Van Dorsen, seconded by Councillor Moughlin. Great. Any discussion? Gosh, okay, I'll start with this. All right, we did receive some nominations, and I just wanted, we have, can I look at yours, because yours has a bundle? Sure. Thank you. We have Councillor Ingrid Van Dorsen is nominated to be on the committee, Councillor Williamson Wong, Councillor Clark, and Councillor Sullivan. Were there any other nominations for people who wanted to serve on this committee? So we have this side of the chamber that'll be serving on the committee. Yeah. All right. Seeing none, do I have to say?
So we'll just add the
Yeah. Okay. Is it okay if the people sitting across from you is your deputy? We'll just do it directly across. Does that work for everybody? Wonderful. All right. So Councillor Kamada will be Councillor Williamson Wong's deputy. Councillor Jeff Graham will be Councillor Andrew Sullivan's deputy. Councillor Moughlin for Councillor Clark, and Councillor Slaughter for Councillor Van Dorsen. Great. Now we have the joys of also deciding on a presiding member for the committee. We have received nominations. I'm just going to ask for nominations from the floor. There are people that have expressed interest, and let's see if there's, these have changed. Is what we're seeing on the screen accurate? Or are there any other nominations? If there are no other people wishing to nominate for either of those positions, we will just add those to the recommendation that we have on the floor. It's a minor amendment, great, and we don't have to do a ballot, but now we are on the item with all the names and everything there. I'm going to just make sure Councillor Van Dorsen doesn't want to, unless you have a question, she doesn't
Got a
want to
question,
open.
that's all it is. Oh, not a question, actually. Just for a point of accuracy, there's an R in my name. That's all, if you've got that.
Good pickup. All right. Is there any discussion on the item? No? Or Councillor Williamson-Wong?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is an important committee that we're setting up. And I guess I wanted to also be clear about why I'm supporting the officer's recommendation for a committee rather than an advisory group, which is also in the report. I think that when it comes to planning, it's obviously important that we're able to be flexible in the way that we run engagements and I guess conduct some things, which is still allowed through a committee framework. But having a committee means that it will be for the public to come to and there will be minutes. And I think the level of formality for such important documents, such as local planning schemes and local planning policies, is really important. And I will also say thank you that I hopefully will become the presiding member. I'm a planning nerd, as it turns out, and I have the privilege of reading lots of planning documents in my day job, so I can't wait to just keep reading more.
Any other comments? Councillor Moughlin.
Sorry. Yeah, just very quickly, I would, and whilst I'm not a member of the committee, I would implore the members of the committee, most probably as the first item as part of that committee's work is to set a timeline for delivering on the work and the expectations that we have and to be able to have that out to our community to understand what we're trying to achieve and the time frame by which we're going to do so, and to hold ourselves to account to deliver on those timeframes.
Great, thank you. And I'll just remind everybody that even as as a deputy member on the committee, elected members are entitled to attend and speak on items at any time that you want. Seeing no further comment, we'll put the item as presented before us up for a vote. All those in favor? And that's unanimous, great. On to the next item, which is the outdoor events policy. Yep, that's correct. Can I get someone to move the item? Councillor Graham, seconded by Councillor Williamson-Wong. Councillor Graham.
No, nothing to say on it. I think just move it on, thanks.
Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you. I just wanted to highlight, obviously during the week I did question what the rationale was behind reducing major events in both the Esplanade and Fremantle Oval from 2 events per year down to 1 event per year. Staff did provide, I think, a fairly reasonable response in the sense that we are increasing the number of events but looking to have more bespoke events, if I can call them that, between 5,000 and 10,000 people that are more manageable in terms of turf maintenance and the like. And particularly I imagine at Fremantle Oval, where there is actually heavy usage for sporting activities for much of the year as well. But I still have some degree of concern that we do need to be flexible, and we do need to have one eye on the fact that we consider ourselves to be a cultural city, an events city, and that this is a policy should events come along that might be too good to miss out on. Then I hope that the staff do consider that and bring that to our attention. The policy is there to try and really establish some ground rules for where events can occur, but also to ensure that people understand that we have a commitment to spreading those events around so that we're not just loading one part of our community up or one space up with all of the events, that we tend to want to spread them around to give each cohort of residents living around an area a break and the like. So I guess the other thing is I think we should watch this, reasonably closely and try and learn if we are missing out on events because of the policy, then we probably need to hear about that at the council level and make sure that we review the policy if a bit further down the track after a year or so when we've learnt any lessons from this new approach. I do appreciate the expansion of the smaller events because I think they work particularly well with the city. The Nick Cave one the other night was really good for the city. The way it finished particularly early and the way in which people came back into the city and utilised all the facilities of the town. And I also noticed that the event that there was had up at the prison, I think the week later or 2 weeks later, I won't say what the band is because it's a fairly offensive name that probably doesn't need to be said in this chamber. But that event finished very early. I think it was 9 o'clock. And there was a huge number of people that were able to come back into the city and enjoy Fremantle on a Friday night. So they're the sort of things that actually do add significant value to our city, and that's why we do these events. So thank you.
Councillor Kamada.
Yeah, just in addition to those comments, I agree. It's a great way to expose people to Fremantle, bring them to Fremantle and see everything that Fremantle has to offer. Also, it's revenue raising. We look at other ways to bring revenue into the city, and it does do that as well. The other, the thing I'm interested in as well in the report, it stated that the business community's comments that they don't currently see any competitive differentiation in Fremantle from what other metro areas do to attract events. And my question is, do we see this as an issue? And if so, how do we address this? How do we differentiate ourselves?
Might hand that one over to the director if you care to answer.
Through the mayor. So that did get raised in the consultation. Fremantle is probably known for a particular type of event, and we have a bit of a following particularly from a music perspective. So we've developed really strong relationships with promoters and producers, particularly in that sector over the past few years. So that's probably what's maintaining the interest in Fremantle as a venue. And I guess part of what we've done with this policy, particularly with the process to apply for holding an event in Fremantle, has actually made it easier for those events to engage with us. So that is part of how we're planning to differentiate a little bit with other venues across the metro area.
Great, thank you. Councillor Williamson-Wong.
Thanks, and thanks, Councillor Kamada. That was a question that I had, so good to see it answered. I was just going to, I guess, say that the destination marketing team has done, I think, done a really great job in the last couple of years in attracting really good new and different types of events to Fremantle, which we've seen have quite a big impact on the local economy. And one of the pieces of community engagement that I was interested in and thought I should just pull out to say is that there was some comments around wanting fewer loud alcohol-driven and high-impact commercial events, and hopefully through this policy and the kind of ease that people can apply to have events in the city, as Councillor Sullivan says, we'll monitor that, and hopefully that brings different types of events to Fremantle, which I think will be great and is also what our community is after.
Any other comment? Great. It's going to be wonderful to see lots of people coming into Fremantle for all these wonderful events, hopefully soon. I guess we'll put that item up for a vote. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Okay. On to the next item, which is Sir Frederick Sampson Reserve Master Plan and Management Plan. Thanks. Moved by Councillor Moughlin, seconded by Councillor Slaughter. Any discussion?
Thank you. Yeah, I'll speak briefly to this, and firstly to say, yeah, really excited for the master plan and management plan to be in front of us tonight for our approval. In the sort of 6.5 years that I've been on council and a representative for what is now known as East Ward and previously Hilton Ward, the most significant conversations that I have with residents on the other side of Stock Road is in regards to Samson Park. When I first joined, it was around people were still scarred from a previous experience on management of dogs out there, and I fell into that fire and didn't really know where that was going. But the concerns in that community in regards to feeling like the city of Fremantle hadn't paid enough attention to the suburb of Samson and particularly to Samson Park, I think are going to be allayed by the implementation of large parts of this master plan. There's been significant community engagement over a number of years, and I think this plan responds to those expectations of that community. And whilst there are some elements of the plan which may not be to everyone's liking, and to go back to my previous point, dog management is going to be an ongoing issue and one that we need to get right. This master plan provides a path forward for a much loved asset in the city of Fremantle, and one which the likes, and we had a Friends of group here this evening, the Friends of Samson Park as well, who are custodians of that park, the residents and other groups who really make the most of one of Fremantle's only bush forever sites. And I look forward to us adequately budgeting for the programs and receiving the grants and support from other government agencies to implement the master plan. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Any other discussion? I'm just going to add one thing. I normally try to speak, but I just wanted to really thank staff for their engagement with the community on this item, because it started really early, before the draft master plan was even put together. It reached out to the community and had several points of engagement as to what folks wanted to see before this master plan was even drafted. So I think that was a really wonderful process that brought the community along. They were on the journey from day one, and then when the master plan was finally put forward, it was something that a lot of stakeholders in the park itself had input into, and I think that's why we have such a wonderful document in front of us with a lot of support from the community. So thank you for going on that journey with the community. So seeing no other comments, I'll put the item up for a vote. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. On to the next item, which is the Stevens Street Traffic Calming Project, and it's a proposed change of design. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Williamson Wong, seconded by Councillor Van Dorsen. Great. Do you want to start the discussion?
It's great to see this come back to us with an amended design based on community feedback. I think that is always good to see when we have feedback from our community to kind of respond to that as we go. I will introduce the fact that I have an amendment or a flagger, and then I'll move it in a second. I guess from a bike perspective, as we know, Stephen Street is a very important bike route, and the current design to formalise the traffic calming cushions, aka formalised speed bumps, will help to slow traffic and create a safer route for cyclists. But it doesn't create a separate bike path, or it doesn't change as a road user how you might expect there to be bikes along there, apart from hopefully the presence of more bicycles. So I have an amendment that I'd like to move, please.
Is there a seconder for Councillor Moughlin?
Thank you.
Now we're on your
the amendment.
Yes.
Thank you. This amendment really seeks to just improve the, bike awareness as is in the name, by putting bike awareness zone signage, which are literally just those painted bicycles on the road to alert cars that there will be bikes, and has been confirmed that that is in the ballpark of $2,000 additional to that project, but it will be municipal funding, so that won't form part of the main roads funding. So I'm not sure if the amendment needs to be worded slightly differently to include bike awareness zone signage as part of the project, or to include bike awareness zone signage. Yeah. So I guess that's extra context for people to be aware of when we're voting on it. It is an extra $2,000. So I think it's going from a $250,000 project to a $52,000 project, because, well, the main roads are funding the rest of it. Our funding has gone to 52, because 50 for the bobtail curving, and then $2,000 for this. And that's all I have to say on the amendment. Thanks.
I think the CEO wanted to make a comment on that.
Just through the chair, I think as part of that process, it's probably better just to put a full stop after the word proposal and just leave the to be funded by MRWA out of it.
And that is what we see in front of us. Is the seconder okay with that change? Great. Any discussion about the amendment, Councillor Sullivan?
Just a technicality, are we making a budget decision tonight, or should it be referred to budget decision?
Great question.
Sorry, just through the process, it will be going to mid-year budget review conversation anyway, so there is a budget conversation coming up that's separate to this.
So then the obvious question is, do we need to add subject to budget consideration and approval?
You can say something.
Through you, Mayor, we have allowed 50,000 of uni funding currently in that. The $2,000 can be accommodated within that 50,000.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, we'll put the amendment up. Oh, sorry, Councillor Graham.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Oh, look, I've got no problems with the amendments that are proposed, but this statement about this important bike link, the east-west bike link on Stephen Street. Now, I know there's e-bikes in the world now, so it's easier for people to traverse. But if you're not on an e-bike, you just about got to be at a Tour de France rider to get up and down both ways on Stephen Street. And I'm just wondering whether the council's ever done any counts on the amount of bikes that go up and down Stephen Street. We do have the volume of traffic on page 35, where it's decreased by about 900 a day. So, I mean, that's obviously working. I don't know whether that 900 a day transposes into 900 cyclists. I would not think so. I'd be lucky to get double figures, I would think. So, so perhaps through you, Mr. Mayor, can we ask the officers, have there ever been a bike count on Stephen Street?
Great question. I will put that out. We may have to take it on notice, but yeah.
Through you, Mayor, take that on notice, please. I'll check with the staff on the history in regards to any bike counts on Stephen Street.
All right. So we're on the amendment from Councillor Williamson Wong. That's before us on the screen as minorly amended. Did you wish to close?
Yes, if no one else has anything to say. Councillor Graham just given me a few things to respond to, you know. The first being that I guess the intention of increasing our road safety is that hopefully will encourage more cyclists. I'm not sure if there'll be Tour de France riders, but hopefully people with e-bikes in their garage will feel safer to ride. And the other is that Stephen Street will become, how important it is as a bicycle route, is my understanding, will be reviewed through the bike plan process, which we're about to discuss in a few moments. And also in the current bike plan is designated as a local route, so as one of the most kind of important routes to make sure we have safe cycling on.
Great. Then we'll put the amendment up for a vote. All those in favour? All right, that's unanimous. Now, oh, sorry, all those against? Councillor Sullivan against, my apologies. Everyone else in favor. Now we're on the item as amended with Councillor Williamson Wong's amendment. Any further discussion?
I might as well move my amendments if I can.
Sure can. Is there a seconder? For Councillor Van Dorsen, all right.
Thank you. This is really confirming what was already in the report and what has also been advised to us by the staff, but I thought it was incredibly important to include it in the recommendation, in the motion, because there was a lot of discussion about these very things in the community consultation, and I think it's appropriate that we be transparent with the community that we've heard that and that we are keen to do something more about that. This isn't just the end of the conversation. I did want to just highlight why this route is important. I don't know if all councillors are aware, I'm sure you actually mostly are, but there is a bit of a bike destination location in Boo Park because of a little facility that we built up the hill there that does attract a lot of particularly younger riders and their families to this location. But of course, Boo Park itself is a great facility, and we ought to be doing whatever we can to increase the connectivity of Boo Park out into the suburbs, both to the south, to the north, and the east and west directions. The issue, obviously, of Stephen Street being a bit tortuous, well, it's no more tortuous than every other East-West Street in White Gum Valley, I would think. And in many ways, because it doesn't have driveways on one side, it is actually a better location to encourage cyclists to utilise, because it's it sort of has that, it's a little bit freer in that sense. The other thing is that really encouraged me to want to move this motion is that I was very disappointed in the High Street process that basically denied us an opportunity to have a dual use path running on the south side of High Street, between High Street and the golf courses. And that, you know, there's a lot of people that don't like the way they have to cross High Street and then use the facilities on the north side, and they're a little bit tortuous. And this is a significant way of being able to compensate for that lack of connectivity along that major east-west link. Stephen Street is the one street that really goes through White Gum Valley and actually ends up all the way down into My Turf, and connects to the primary school down the very bottom via, yes, some fairly tortuous routes, but it is a very direct connection through into the city. So I think for all of those reasons, this motion makes a lot of sense, and I'm glad the staff are going to be looking at options for us to budget for into the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on Councillor Sullivan's amendment? Councillor Moughlin.
Thank you. I might be, or rather, I'm a little reluctant to support the amendment. Whilst I support the principle, I'm not really comfortable that we need another report written on this particular aspect. So just one standalone report to be written on the local route designation and a dedicated cycle route. The report from officers already talks to the review of the local route as part of the development of the new bike plan. So I think it's most probably, from my perspective, adequate that that's considered as part of the bike plan rather than a separate report that is brought back to council and the work that goes with generating a report to come to this chamber.
Question, would further report as per this amendment need to be a standalone report, or could it be a further report that is included in the bike plan?
Through the chair, it's a great question. We are reviewing the bike plan at the moment, and maybe we could make it part of that report that comes back through if Councillor Sullivan's amenable to that.
Happy for a change of word that, I mean, the fact that the officers actually said that that's what they were doing, I'm happy for the motion to reflect that.
Wonderful. Councillor Williamson Wong.
Thanks. I share the view of Councillor Mothlan, really, but I guess if we're considering whether or not, start at the beginning, my understanding was that the review of the designation of all kind of local routes and different streets is being reviewed in the bike plan process anyway, making the first part of the amendment part of that report process. The second part, in terms of coming up with design options for the dedicated cycle route, I'm clearly all for safe cycling and the like. Do we think that it's premature to, I guess it's a question for, do we think it's premature to have that come back to us at the cost it will take for our staff to prepare such a design option when we haven't had the bike plan come back to us yet, would be my hesitation. But I guess if we're redoing the bike plan now, we may, in my opinion, it feels we may as well wait until that comes back to confirm where our highest priorities are for the designs and have a clearer understanding of which areas of our city really are lacking the design. And I question whether our staff have capacity to do this all at the same time when there's other things that they're working on.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson Wong. Was that a question or a statement? I kind of felt like that, but there was a little bit of a actual question in there. Okay, I just wanted to check before we moved on. Any other, Councillor Van Dorsen?
Thank you. I'm happy to support this amendment. Thank you, Andrew. And I think I seconded this motion, so I thought I'd better just pipe up that I do support that proposed amendment as well, just to say that it will be reviewed as part of the bike plan review. I think this street does warrant a bit of focus, and so don't object to having it in our minutes. So thank you.
Just a point on the rewording, I'm more than happy for it to say just further information as part of the bike plan review. I think that softens it a little bit. That was really the intent. Obviously, this isn't making a decision, it's asking for conversation.
Okay. All right. So those are all minor amendments, by the way. I'm happy to accept them as part of as long as you are the mover that suggested them. Of course you are. Is there any other comment on the amendment that's before us? Seeing none, we'll put that up for a vote. All those in favor? And that's everybody, unanimous. Now back to the item as amended twice. Did we have any comment about the Stephen Street Traffic Calming Project proposed change of design? Seeing none, the only thing I just want to say again on this item is just thanking staff for taking into account the feedback from community and really listening and bringing this alternate design forward. I think that's really responsive and really great, and I think our community and everyone will be much more pleased with the outcome because of that. So if there's no further comment, we'll put the item as amended up for a vote. All those in favor? Great, and that's unanimous. Okay, I'm going to ask if any elected members want to speak on items 18, which is the Davis Park Precinct Road pedestrian access way closure, 19 or 20 or 21. Councillor Slaughter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just in noting the objections to the pedestrian access way closure, I would just stress that the comments taken by local residents about accessibility and again bike and pedestrian infrastructure be carried forward as the Lefroy project progresses, so that we know that we are aware of the comments from the engagement and factor that in planning movements going forward.
Thank you, Councillor Slaughter. I should have been more clear. I was going to see if there was no one that wanted to speak on any of those 4 items, then I was going to ask if someone wanted to move them en bloc. But I hear that you want to speak on number 18, and we've got other comments and other items. Yeah, so let's just move them one at a time. Yeah, there we go. All right, so we'll start with the Davis Park Precinct Road and Pedestrian Access Way closure. Can I get a mover? Councillor Slaughter, seconded by Councillor Williamson Wong.
As noted, I agree with the officer's recommendation that we go ahead anyway, despite the objections that were received, but acknowledge them, particularly in terms of local residents who are concerned about how the development progresses.
Great, thank you. Seeing no further comment on the road closures, we'll put that for a vote. All those in favor of the officer's recommendation? That's unanimous. On to number 19, the write-off rates and charges for the residential property. A mover, Councillor Moughlin, seconded by Councillor Graham. Seeing no comment, we'll put it up for a vote. All those in favor of the officer's recommendation, that's carried unanimously. The corporate plan report, moved by Councillor Williamson Wong, seconded by Councillor Kamada.
I did want to speak on this one, thanks. I just thought I would pull out the highlights because, you know, we should celebrate the wins when they come through a council chamber. So I'm just going to rattle them off that came out to me. The Legal Centre helped 433 clients, which is obviously massive. We've hit our target for 20% urban forest canopy. That's a win. And we have supported 690 artists or engaged with 690 artists in the last 6 months, including 414 new artists, which I thought was important to point out. It's been one of our goals, I guess, to be an incubator for young artists, and we're seeing that reflected in the programming, so that's amazing. And then the other highlight was that our fitness centre has had a 610% increase since March 2025 from about 1,000 users to over 7,000 users. So that is amazing, although it sounds like it's a really busy place to be. So if you get stressed by lots of people in a gym like I do, not the place to be. No, just kidding. And I want to thank former Councillor Thompson for pushing for a spend on that, because I know that was a project that he championed and it is clearly paying off for us. So thanks.
Well said. Any other further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the officer's recommendation? That's great. That's unanimous. Item 21, response to the petition on the Leighton Beach Boulevard speed limit reductions. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Van Dorsen. Wish to speak, Councillor Clark?
Thank you. I just wanted to speak to this to say that I said earlier that it's really good when a member of our community notices a problem and brings a solution, but in this case we not only had a member of our community, thank you Darren for organising the petition and gathering that community in quite large numbers too there in Leighton, but also our city staff noticed the problem and they did the research too. So what we ended up with was looking really efficient on this one in getting a response from Main Roads and all the support from them to say they were happy with it and also that the city was happy with it. So thanks for your work. Thanks to Darren for bringing all those residents there in Leighton together to sign that off for us. Thank you.
Councillor Sullivan?
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted, I guess, to add to that in the sense that, I absolutely thank our staff for being able to put forward a sound argument for a 30-kilometre-hour zone. The reality is it hasn't always been that easy in the past, so well done. And I also wanted to, on a very rare occasion, thank Main Roads for actually being obviously so willing to support community in the kind of response that they want to see. Hopefully it heralds a new beginning for Main Roads. We'll wait and see. Sounding a bit cynical, I know, but I just genuinely am happy that Main Roads can see that these are the sort of things that actually community want and need to flourish and to feel safe. So well done to Main Roads as well.
Great. Councillor Van Dorsen.
Thank you. Just quickly, wanted to reiterate the comments, but thank you, officers and council, and for the work on this and turning around so quickly. Very impressive, and do second the comments of Councillor Clark and Councillor Sullivan, and would go so far as to say unprecedented by Main Roads to show support for an initiative, a community-driven initiative like this, and reducing speed limits. And yeah, really pleased with the outcome. So thank you, Main Roads too.
That might be the headline. Thank you, Main Roads. Is there any other further comment? Seeing none, we'll put the officer's recommendation up for a vote. All those in favor? Unanimous. All right. Now we are done with those ones. We're on to the statutory reports. The first item being acceptance of minutes and consideration of motions from the annual general meeting of electors held on the 2nd of February. We've got an officer's recommendation before us. Can I ask if anyone cares to move that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Moughlin, seconded by Councillor Slaughter. Any discussion or?
Do we get to talk on these separately? How does it?
Well,
Or in general, can we
we
make
generally
change
have a rule.
comments?
If there's a request to move things separately, we can do that. The officer's recommendation before us deals with them singular as one item. If requests come to, we generally support those.
As one item, can I still speak generally on?
Um,
That's all I want to do.
Oh, yes. If there's a request to discuss each item individually, I would entertain that as well. If people feel like they want to speak maybe to different items within that's contained in here, I'm more than happy to allow that to happen, I guess, as the presiding member. So I just would need that request to come from somebody and what they wanted to speak on separately.
I'll make that request.
Or we can just be really relaxed on this item and let people speak more than once if they care to speak more than once as
I only
items
want to
come
speak
up.
once.
So,
I'll speak now then. Look, to begin with, a lot of scrutiny obviously goes into the city's finances, and this is understandable. And the annual general meeting of electors is a very important part of the process. I think, make sure I follow my notes. At the December 10 council meeting, we resolved to receive the auditor's report and audited financial statements for the financial year ending June 30, 2025. Now, accountability and transparency are crucial to the process, and knowing that we have independent auditors and a strict Local Government Act gives me comfort in this area. And that's not to say, however, that as decision makers we shouldn't be diligent with the decisions we make. So getting back to the motions that were put up, last year I agree that it wasn't a great look when the motions are all bundled into a single council resolution, and I think we've come a long way since then, and I'm really pleased with the responses that we have this year, and I think the consideration has been very good. And so I just want to comment on a couple of the motions. That was the first, actually, motion 1. That was a motion that was put forward, and I'm pleased with that. And then motion 5, and I think the intent of point 1 and point 2 is admirable. However, I feel the current outreach organisation, do a great job, despite being restricted by a system that doesn't seem to deliver any visible improvement year after year. So I pose a question which is not to be answered tonight. It's a question that sits with us all. And like specifically, how do we work with higher levels of government and various outreach organisations to achieve genuine change that deals with all the aspects of homelessness via a bipartisan approach? This is an area that I receive most feedback on as a councillor, and it's one that I really wrestle with. I have difficulty coming up with answers that genuinely achieve what we need to do as a community. And it's not an issue that's restricted to Fremantle. It's a statewide and really nationwide problem, and it's something that we really should do better. It's an area we should do better in. And yeah, I just wanted to comment on that because I know that we all deal with this, and I know there are a lot of great people in our community that do great work, and I just feel like they're often hitting their head against a brick wall. And if we can advocate to get better results, then and I know we do, but we just need to stick at it and find ways to get better results. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kamara. Any other comments or discussion on the item or questions? Councillor Williamson?
Thanks. And thank you, Councillor Kamada, for your comments. I think you hit the nail on the head that accountability and transparency are crucial to government in general. And in terms of our finances, the independent audits that we receive do give me comfort, but that doesn't mean that we are not all diligent in our roles as elected members. I was also going to speak to the substance of motion 5, because I think it is important to be honest about what we're experiencing in Fremantle, which is an increased level of homelessness and of antisocial behaviour. And we all know that to be true. It's not as easy as motion 5, suggests, I think, in terms of being able to relocate people to mental health facilities to begin with. There aren't not enough mental health facilities in Perth that would accommodate, and it's not really up to us to just put people in places that they are not going to respond well to. That being said, I think I agree with much of what Councillor Kamada says. There's things that we need to do and to do better in this space, because it's not okay that people in our community feel unsafe. It's not okay for people who are homed to feel unsafe in our community, but it's also not okay for the people who are unfortunately experiencing homelessness to also not feel safe on the streets. And I hope that also through our public health plan, which will come to us, and our community safety and crime prevention plan, both coming to us in 2026, there will be some crossover and opportunities for us to look at, bigger projects that support people who are experiencing homelessness and very complex mental health and substance abuse issues from the very beginning of that journey through to stable housing and jobs and a stable life. Because I think, of course, we all want to be empathetic to people who are experiencing difficult circumstances, but it also shouldn't necessarily come at the expense of us feeling unsafe in our city. So it's such a difficult thing to balance, and I hope that we've seen St. Pat's start the construction of their next phase of work, and as frustrating as it might be, those sorts of services are really the ones I think that will help, at the start of the problem, rather than thinking that there's some solution that we're going to come to in the next few months. So thank you for your comments, Councillor Kamara. I'm thinking the same.
Any other comments? Councillor Andrew Sullivan, sorry.
That's right. And I share the comments that have been made about the other items, and in particular, any aspect about the homelessness one. I mean, it is a shared responsibility amongst all levels of government and the community as well. Local government's role is challenging because we really are not able to provide the big services that are essential, that are missing in mental health and in housing, and the other services that are also important, but perhaps not as significant, but certainly important in drug and alcohol services and the like. But we do have a role, and I think our job is to try and focus on the things that we can do. And I'm certainly focused on things like making sure that we keep an eye on and do something about the lack of toilet facilities within the city centre particularly. And I'll certainly keep encouraging my colleagues and the city to do better because we need to. The one I wanted to talk about particularly, because it's both in my local turf, but it's also something that's I've followed for a very long time, and that's the South Beach project. And I mean the project in its entirety. Obviously, there's been a lot of focus on the old toilets, and then the ability to provide new toilets, and the condition of the temporary toilets. And I don't want to necessarily open up wounds that are genuinely starting to heal now, because the facilities that we've created are certainly significantly appreciated by almost everyone I speak to. They're still challenging because South Beach is a challenging environment, but I think the staff and the community did a particularly good job at coming together and trying to get the best outcome that we could. But I think there are also, and I said this last year when this issue was raised at the annual general meeting of electors, that we ought to, particularly with big projects, we ought to always review and take learnings from processes. And I think there are genuine learnings that I know our staff and us as councillors have taken on board in that regard. But I wanted to emphasise that we do that for all projects. We don't just do that for the ones that are, perhaps obviously controversial or obviously impactful on community, or obviously went on for a longer period of time than any of us perhaps expected. So we do that, and it should be a continuous process and a continuous learning, continuous opportunities to do better. And I know that the CEO and his staff share that point of view and are constantly reviewing that. And even though I did kind of want to pass a motion last year, but I know that I didn't actually need to pass that motion because it was in train anyway as part of normal business, but also because it was highlighted and heightened in the process last year. But it didn't, it didn't exactly need to be highlighted at the annual general meeting of electors, because it had been something that had been a hotbed of conversation for a very long period of time. I would just quickly say that in the report, in the response, I acknowledge that it's talking about a time frame that really is only the budget time frame. So anybody reading that, obviously, we're also aware that there was a huge amount of pre-planning and planning work that was done prior to that. But bear in mind, it was a huge project, and huge projects are difficult to fund, and they were particularly difficult to fund and manage in that period of time when costs were escalating, skyrocketing, and finding contractors was difficult. So, we should take some solace that we actually managed to deliver a project in that period of time and move forward with a really great facility. There are other items which I'd like to speak on, but I'll let other members have a crack.
I might just have a few comments on motion 5, because that was kind of the theme going through this part of the discussion. And while, I acknowledge that, there are some people in our community that feel unsafe because there are folks in the street who are unhoused, I feel like motion 5 actually proposes a quick solution that is actually very unrealistic. And as a local government, as pointed out in the report, we don't have the power or authority to move people on or do anything along those ways. But it's a bit dangerous because folks that have maybe felt not entirely safe see that as the quick solution, as a potential one. And by proposing that we take that on, as something that we can't do as a local government, it's a bit dangerous because I feel like people might think we're not doing all that we can. So I think if people genuinely want to help, get in touch. Be a part of something constructive, because there are so many people in our community who are reaching out every day or when they can to help people that are experiencing homelessness, doing a range of different things. Just the other day, I met a lady named Tina. I don't know if any of you guys know her, but she comes in and helps people that are experiencing homelessness sign up for services. She gets them, access to the internet and things like that so they can start to get their lives back together. And she just comes in and does it on her own. I heard about there's a group of paramedics that are walking around South Terrace helping patching people up and Fridays and Saturday nights, people that can't necessarily afford that, and even taking folks to hospital if they need that. So there are a lot of people out there doing really great humanitarian work. So if folks feel like we need to do something about folks experiencing homelessness, I would say please just get in touch and be a part of doing something that's constructive. Any other comments?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to acknowledge the thoroughness of the responses from the staff and thank them for being so diligent in providing timely responses that are also thorough. So thank you.
Now we are on the entire item, and if you have a mobile phone, if it's making sounds, could you please silence your mobile phones in the chamber? That would be much appreciated. It's a carton if you don't. So we are on the item, which is the entire item. If people wish to speak on anything that's in the item, please let us know. Well, I just had a question, and it was about on page 353. There was a question about specific to the north side of the port. Can the council give the total number of financial income revenue, from the north side of the port? And the response said approximately 3.5 million in rate revenue is collected from within the footprint of the port area, including the section northwest of Tyburn Road. I was just wondering, is the 3.5 million that we collect from the port area, is that specifically the northern part of the port area, or is that the entire port area? Did that include the South Quay portion as well?
Through the Mayor, that is the entire footprint of the port area, and the reference to the northern section of Tyburn Road is the port-owned land, because there is a little bit of port-owned land to the north of Tyburn Road.
So it includes South Quay?
Yeah. Not South Quay, because there's no, it does not include South Quay. Yep.
Great, thanks. I just wanted to clarify that. All right, well, with all that flexibility on this item with a lot of things in it, are there any other comments or discussion about item 22, acceptance of the minutes from the AGM? Seeing none, we'll put the officer's recommendation up for a vote. All those in favor? Great, that's unanimous. Thank you, everyone. All right, now these ones I will ask if anyone has any comments on either the statement of investments, item 23, the schedule of payments, item 24, the monthly financial report, item 25, or 26. Monthly financial report, or the fees and charges 27.
24. Thank
24, okay. Seeing no other comments, I would ask if someone would move. I'm sorry, Councillor Graham? Okay, so moving items 23, 25, 26, and 27 en bloc, seconded by Councillor Kamada. All those in favor? Unanimous. And now we'll go to item 24, the schedule of payments, moved by Councillor Moughlin, seconded by Councillor Graham. Councillor Moughlin.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you. I just wanted to acknowledge the change in reporting that's occurred in the schedule of payments related to credit cards and the incorporation of the categorisation of the purchases that have occurred in there. And just so that was part of one of the findings from the OAG audit a little while back, and a follow-up question to officers to just check in, is that considered as adequate to meet the requirements of the findings to include that categorisation for those?
To the Director.
Through the Mayor, yeah, we're comfortable that that meets the requirements. However, over time, we're happy to continue to just monitor the quality of reporting and update and adjust as we need.
Seeing no further comment, we'll move the officer's recommendation. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. All right, last two items, the committee and working group reports. The working group information report, I'm going to mover and seconder. Moved by Councillor Williamson-Wong, seconded Councillor Moughlin. All those in favor of the officer's recommendation? Sorry, unanimous. I hope no one wanted to speak on that. Getting close to the end, everyone. The CEO Performance Review Committee report, item 29, moved by Councillor Sullivan, seconded by Councillor Slaughter. Any comments? Oh, sorry. Moved by Councillor Sullivan, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to highlight that a couple of things from the process. The first one is that I do note that at the annual general meeting of electors, there was comments made about the way we, as a council, run our performance review for the CEO, and whether or not the KPIs that we use should be more sort of almost tick box sort of elements that are very, very finely defined, as in, you know, reach this percentage or create this number or whatever. And there was discussion, some discussion about that, and the committee felt that the type of KPIs that this council set are very appropriate for our organisation and for the type of CEO that we have. There is a strong, I guess, strong level of support for the way the performance review process works, and the spirit and the candour of that process is appreciated. And I would also note, obviously, that this is the review period that sort of follows, as we know, the CEO having to had some time off for health reasons. And I wanted to just highlight that what is very clear, and it was certainly clear from his report as well, that he's absolutely fully back on board and actually more enthusiastic about the next 5 years than he's ever been. So I think that's a really good situation to be in for a council, and I hope we can maintain his enthusiasm by not upsetting him too much with the sorts of speeches that I make. So well done, and yeah, I recommend the motion to you.
All right, seeing no further comment, we'll put the officer's recommendation up for a vote. All those in favor? Unanimous. All right, there's no motions from which previous notice has been given. There's no urgent business, late items, none, confidential business, none. And that all being said, I will declare the meeting closed at 7:18 p.m. Great work, everyone. Thank you.